Yeah, they're surprisingly good. And Jaden Daniels, man, what can you say about him? He's clutch and looks like one of the best young players in the league. But yeah, we'll get started off with some stats here. Like he said, I do my own calculations on how I get my stats for offense and defense. I take a little more into consideration than just yards or points. I combine some different stats on that to get my numbers. But yeah, I did some calculations for spread, and they're all spread for this game as a 3.8. When you adjust that and you give the Eagles a couple points for home field advantage and a little half a point for an injury advantage, that goes up to 6.3. So Vegas has the number at -6 for the Eagles, and on my calculation, it was at 6.3. So I have the Eagles with a slight advantage more than Vegas, but Vegas is probably rounding that number down from 6.3 themselves. So I basically have the same number they have. When you get down to like combined offense, combined defense, it's really close on offense. The Commanders are ranked number 4. The Eagles are ranked number 6. Combined defense is where the separation is on these two teams. The Commanders have the 13th ranked defense, and the Eagles have the number 1 ranked defense. So overall, the Eagles have a slight advantage, especially on the defensive side. You can break that down a little bit more. You can go in and look at passing offense and passing defense. So on passing offense, the Commanders are ranked 13th and the Eagles are ranked 31st. So that's an advantage for the Commanders. Commanders have a good advantage in the passing offense game. And then you look at the defense, you got the Commanders at 5 and the Eagles at 2. So the Eagles have a slight advantage there on the passing defense, but they're both very good. They're both elite. So it's kind of strength on strength there. But there again, the passing offense for the Eagles may not be the best in the league, but you also have to consider the fact that they run the ball a lot and have the number 1 ranked rushing offense. So that's also going to take away from your passing game. So being at 31, that's not really representative of the quality of their passing offense. There again, they have one of the best wide receivers in the league, and they can burn you at any time. You go down to rushing offense, rushing defense. Again, on rushing offense, very close. Commanders at 3, Eagles at 2. But then you look at the rushing defense. That's where there's a big difference in this game. Again, the Commanders are 30th in rushing defense, and the Eagles are number 9. So the Eagles have a big advantage in rushing defense, and the Commanders have an advantage in their passing offense. So those are the two big differences I see in this game, really. It's that Eagles defense is a little bit better, maybe overall. And really, the Commanders, their strength of their defense is the passing D, but the Eagles' passing D is just as good. So that may not necessarily be an advantage for them. I'm really seeing, especially since this game is in Philadelphia, I'm probably going to go with the Eagles here, but boy, there again, I'm not sure if I'm going to put money on this or not yet. So I went back and forth with this one a couple times. Do you have any angles on this one I'm not seeing?
So I'm just looking at this game and saying it's, for the Commanders, it's got to be a similar strategy to what it was versus the Lions. I mean, they have to come out firing. There is no room for error. I mean, and Jaden Daniels hasn't turned the ball over. I mean, it feels like since the Commanders have gotten to the playoffs, they've been a whole nother different team in terms of turning the ball over. I think they barely turned the ball over. Jaden Daniels has played incredible football. I mean, I just look at this game and I see an incredible, division rivalry matchup. Commanders being here, being surprised, surprising that they're here. But I think I agree with you. The Eagles are they're just a better football team. And, I want to pick the Commanders. I want to pick Jaden Daniels. I want to see them go to the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. That would be incredible. But at the end of the day, the Commanders got a little fortunate versus the Lions. I mean, the Lions still ran for almost or over 200 yards, I'm pretty sure. It was just that they just had to stop running the football because they were behind so much. And, that Eagles passing defense is much better.
Yeah.
So, the Commanders coming out, if they're not going to be able to come out firing like they did versus Detroit, I mean, let's not forget they did, put up a lot of points versus the Eagles the first time around. Or no, the second time around they played the Eagles. But I did hear that the Eagles were pretty banged up the second time they played. But regardless, the Commanders and Daniel still put up a lot of points on them. But like you said, it's in Philadelphia too. I think Philadelphia has to be one of the most difficult places to play in the cold. This this time of year in that cold. Sometimes you get flurries. It's outside, and those fans, man, they are rough. They are loud. And it's not like the Commanders can't deal with that. Heck, they just went to Detroit. Tell me those fans weren't riled up, from what they've seen this season. But I just think that the Eagles are they're going to run the football so well, so good. I don't know if the Commanders could get out to that commanding lead early on to force the Eagles to stop running the football. And the Eagles won't stop running the football that early either. They're only down 14. They're not going to stop running the football. But now, if the Eagles have to get in a shootout, I'm not too sure if the Eagles, passing wise, say they have to get back in the game passing wise. I'm not too sure if they could do that because they've struggled, to push the ball down the field. They've struggled to generate some passing offense this year. So, this game could really go either way. It's a really difficult game to predict, but I guess I know, we kind of said the same thing about the Commanders the last two games. When they played the Buccaneers, we said, the Buccaneers are more battle hardened. They've been there. We thought that the Commanders were going to be one and done. And then you go to Detroit, we're thinking, okay, the Lions are, that running game is too good. But like you kind of said before the show started, when you have a quarterback of Jaden Daniels' caliber, that's where the numbers can fall through. When you have a quarterback of that caliber and, the way he looks, he just looks incredible. I got nothing else to say. It's so rare for a rookie to come into the playoffs and play the way he has.
Yeah,
but
absolutely clutch.
And he sure is. He sure is. So, it's just like, oh, I don't like. My heart is saying the Commanders, but my brain is saying the Eagles, and I'm gonna go with the Eagles in this.
Yeah. Yep. Your heart is with the Commanders, but your money's on the Eagles.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think that's probably. That's the call here. If if I was going to put money on this game, it had to be on the Eagles to win or cover the spread. You could see possibly this game being an under because of all the running. You could have a lot of running with Jaden Daniels scrambling and the Eagles obviously running the ball, controlling the clock a lot. The Commanders seem to control the clock when they want to as well. Now they didn't as much against the Lions. So it seemed like against the Buccaneers, the Commanders controlled the clock a lot, and then when they played the Lions, it was just a all-out shootout. So they can play either way, which is good for them. They can win more than one way, and that's dangerous because I think Philly, they kind of have one recipe for success. They need to run the ball, and
Right.
They can't do that successfully, and not just successfully. Like if they just have a turnover or two, for a running team, that just puts you so far behind the sticks, especially if you do it early in the game. You let that young team that's gaining confidence get out to an early lead, and that's going to spell some big trouble. Like you said, if it puts pressure on Philly to have to sit back there and toss the rock more than they want to, then that's it's going to put you in danger of getting an interception, and compounding the mistakes because that pass defense for the Commanders is so good. If they're going to force you into throwing more than you want to or deeper than you want to, that's when they can lure you into some mistakes. And I could see it, happening a little bit like, the Lions game, like you were saying. For the Commanders to win this game, it needs to go a little bit like the game did against the Lions. They need to come out, score early, have the Lions maybe turn the ball over, or have the Eagles turn the ball over early, and then you can jump out, and then you've got them. Because with your pass defense being so good for the Commanders, if you get out to that early lead, it's not going to be easy to pass on them. And then, like I said, if they turn the ball over, now you've got them right where you want them. On the flip side, if the Eagles can run the ball a whole bunch and they run right up and down the field and the Commanders can't stop them, they can control the clock, they can pass whenever they want to when they're comfortable. You're not going to beat the Eagles that day if you're going to let them run up and down the field, and if they're not going to turn the ball over. There again, I mean, these teams are so close. I mean, and both the teams can score points. So if I'm looking at the little bit of difference between the two teams is that the Eagles might just have an extra player or two on defense. So yeah, I mean, if I'm going to go with the money, it's going to be on the Eagles. Not disrespecting the Commanders. I think they can win the game. Now, just looking at quarterback wise, I think what happens is people with Jalen Hurts, they don't respect his passing ability as much, and I understand why. I think it's because he's a true 50-50 quarterback. I think he can run as well as he can pass. Is what I'm basically saying there. And he doesn't have to pass all the time to be successful. He doesn't have to run all the time to be successful. I just think that he's one of those rare talents where he's actually a 50-50 quarterback where he runs and passes both like equally well. He's just not dominant on either side. Like he's just not a dominant passer. He's not a dominant runner. But the fact that he can do both very well makes that offense go. And if he's able to move around, if Saquon Barkley is going to run for over 100 yards, and all Jalen Hurts has to do is complete 15 passes on the day, and the Eagles are going to win. But yeah, beyond that, the weather is going to be 28 degrees and sunny, so no snow or anything like that. I wonder how the cold's going to affect the Commanders. They're not playing indoors this next week, and they're not going to be down south in Tampa Bay either. So they will have a little bit of challenge facing the cold and playing in that for the first time in a while. So that usually does affect the offense. That usually slows down the offense when it's real cold. But yeah, I'm excited to see this game, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do money wise. I'm still trying to figure out whether I want to put money on the Eagles or not. But
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
tough one. It's a tough one. It can go either way. You could tell me however, like after this game ends, you could tell me, hey, this happened, and be like, yeah, it sounds kind of right. But one thing I do want to bring up really fast before we move on to the next game is, typically when you have a 2,000-yard rusher or a running back that, has such an incredible season, that's a great thing and all, right? But sometimes it feels like that's hiding a deficiency somewhere else. And like you said, maybe I don't give Jalen Hurts enough credit for, how well he passes the football. He's just not dominant, and I'm expecting dominant out of him. So I think you brought a new viewpoint to me, which I think is very important. But back to the part when running the football is typically when a team runs the football so much, it does, kind of mean that it could mean that there's a deficiency hiding somewhere. And Eagles passing game has struggled. It hasn't been great. But at the same time, it feels like, the Eagles are just leaning towards a strength, but they could still pass the football.
yeah, like they have to pass the ball or they have to run the ball to be successful.
Right. Right. So sometimes I think like, if you run the ball so well, that's a great thing and all. But when it comes to 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and a big down and big game, you could run the football, but you're gonna pass it, and in those bigger moments when you have to pass it, the other team is expecting to pass as well. I mean, I feel like that's when that running game, when that it. I know it sounds so weird, but when a team runs the football so well, it's a great thing, yeah, but it's just hiding another deficiency somewhere, I think. But the Eagles, I mean, they just do a lot of things really so well. So I mean, I can't really say they have a deficiency. The run game is just that damn good.
Yeah, they do not have to pass the ball a whole lot to be successful. That's for sure.
No, no,
Your
and maybe
quarterback can
I'm
run. Your running back is one of the best in the league.
All right then. Is that's all we got for that game then, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking value wise. I mean, if you can get 6.5 points on the Commanders, that's probably not a bad value bet with these teams being so close. Because if you think you say it's a 50-50 matchup, well, if they're going to give you two field goals, that probably isn't a bad bet. Like if you want to do something risky on this one, heck, I'd say take the Commanders because your value on taking the Eagles as the favorites is not going to be great. I mean, and you'd have to have the Eagles win by 6 or more points, and this is a playoff game. This is an upset alert game. That's why I'm not real big on putting my money on it because the Commanders can definitely beat the Eagles. So giving the Eagles taking the Eagles at -6 is a tough one because Commanders can beat them or they could get within a field goal very easily. So maybe the value here I'm thinking is in the Commanders on the spread, and that would probably be the only place I would think about putting my money on this game. To be honest, go with that young rookie quarterback. You don't know what's going to happen. Heck, they could mess around and win that game.
Sure can. I mean, they proved me wrong. They proved us wrong the first two times around. So I mean.